Minted from 1808 to 1814, the classic head large cent is one of the most beautiful designs of our early coinage. Matt has brought their story to share with us.
Today, guys, I just wanted to kind of run through classic head large cents. These are coins that I see pretty often, but I've always been kind of fascinated with them because just the short amount of time that they were minted and the fact and why they actually stopped minting them was kind of neat too. So let's just get right into it. Classic head large cents were designed by John Wright, and it's one of the shortest runs of any cent style ever made at the U.S. Mint. The coins were made for a total of 7 years. The series ended in 1814 because of a fire at the mint, which also caused no 1815 cents to be made. This was the only year that the United States did not make a cent. The Classic Head series was replaced in 1816 by the Coronet Head design. Now, the Classic Head half cent design was used from 1809 until 1836, so they had a longer run. I really feel that this is an overlooked series by most collectors. I mean, the entire mintage of the entire series is just a little over 3.8 million coins. There's a lot of large cents that total have a mintage of larger than that. Now, the 1810 large cent has the largest mintage with just over 1.4 million coins made. Now, the next year, 1811, has the lowest mintage with about 218,000 pieces produced that year.
Now, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I know that it's convention back in the early days of the mint that they didn't necessarily stop using dies at the end of the year, but they continued to use them until they'd pretty much worn out. Was this part of the thing in 1811 as to why they minted so few 1811 cents?
It's very possible. I don't know the answer to that question for sure, but it is very possible. It also could have to do with the fact that maybe
the supply was just so great that they didn't need
maybe
anymore.
because in 1810 they made 1.4 million coins. They just didn't need that many that year. Now these coins are actually a coin that I find that people putting together typesets have trouble getting in their set. It's one of the last ones they put in.
And why is that?
Just because they're hard to find nice ones. You can find a lot of ugly ones. I see a lot of these coins in like AG to fine that may have some light corrosion, and that's actually kind of standard for these. I would bet that the majority of these coins that exist today are in less than fine condition, and most of them have corrosion. I don't know why, but a lot of classic heads have corrosion.
Now, these classic heads were made on screw presses, right?
I believe so.
So as far as strike, here's something where you really do kind of have to know the difference between strike and wear.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially on stuff that was made real early. A lot of the times they could not get the pressures that they needed to get these coins to strike all the way up. So that's part of it where the challenge comes in on these things is trying to find AU and mint state coins. Mint state coins are very, very hard to find. And I did a little homework while writing this article, and it looks like 1810s, which is the year they made the most, can be $7,000 to $10,000 in mint state.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's just how few of them exist, and partially because they probably weren't made that nice anyways, even to begin with.
Well, not only that, but these coins likely saw a lot of use.
Yeah, and they did, and that's why a lot of them are.
This was the people's coin.
Yeah, and AG to fine as well. Now, there's a couple of cool varieties and errors for the series. There's the 1810 over 9 overdate, which is a pretty dramatic overdate, easily seen without magnification. And, coins in VF or above can get pretty pricey. There's another overdate in the series, which is the 1811 over 0, which is also pretty easily seen without a glass. This is a much rarer overdate than the previous one. I found an example of an MS63 Brown that sold at auction for $41,400 recently, and a fine 12 sold for $518.
Okay. I guess that would say that anything above fine is going to be a real big premium.
Yeah. There's also varieties such as the 1812 large and small date and the 1814 plain and crosslet 4. There's also a curious restrike of the 1810s that seem to have been struck in white metal with original dies. Now, the obverse die, through research, it looks like, is a genuine 1810 die from the U.S. Mint. And the reverse was a die that was used to strike 1820 cents. Now, these were believed to have been made at the U.S. Mint in the 1860s in Philadelphia, and just a couple of examples exist. I had even trouble doing a little research on them, finding that much out about them.
But that was a pretty common practice at the Mint in the 1850s for them to go back and either strike coins that people needed for their collections or strike coins that were really, really hard to come by in exchange for things for the Mint cabinet.
Yes.
You know, it was a really common practice that you could pretty much get anything that you want made. It surprises me to a certain extent that nobody, wanted an 1815 large set made.
That's true. I wonder if they even prepared the dies.
I guess it would depend on what time of year the fire happened in 1814. It also surprises me that there's so much variation in the different coins within a year. Like, for example, you had mentioned that in 1814 there was a plain 4 and a crosslet 4.
Yes.
It would seem to me that there should be some decision. It would be made. This is the style of numbers that we're going with this year. Is it possible that maybe the crosslet 4s were struck at a later time?
Very much so, yeah.
Because in the case of the $1804 and the 1804, not the $1804, in the case of the 1804 Eagles, the $10 Eagles, the ones that were struck originally have a plain 4, and the ones that were struck in proof, I believe, for the presentation sets were struck with a crosslet 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's very possible that they were done, the dies were prepared at a different time. It's also possible that it was just a miscommunication between, the Mint and the die cutters, or it's just possible that it's just a personal choice between the die cutters.
The other thing that I find curious about it is that, okay, if you're looking at a year like 1814 and you have these two different varieties, that means that they had to cut two different hubs because they weren't doing the dies. They were
No. These were hand punched.
Oh, they were hand punched.
Yep, they were all the dates, Liberty, and all the lettering was hand punched.
So the hub basically had everything but the date, and then they hand punched
They did the lettering, the stars by hand. Basically, it was just the head and the wreath, I believe.
I also find it really interesting that from 1816 to 1836 that you had a different design on the half cent versus the large cent.
Yeah.
Because much of our coinage at that time was the minor coinage had kind of the same design. The silver coinage all had the same design. And during the period of the Classic Head series, you actually had from half cent all the way up to $10 Eagle with virtually the same design at every single coin the United States made.
Yeah. They won't do that today, that's for sure.
No, I honestly thought it was one of the most beautiful designs ever.
Yeah, it looks more realistic, I think, than some of the other bust designs that were put out.
Well, they had the different Liberty caps that they put on our early coinage, and I really don't know what to make out of the very first one. It kind of looks. Yeah, well, I'm talking about the one with the capped Liberty, and it appears to me to be like a fedora or some hat like that, whereas as they sometimes refer to them, the turban head designs.
Oh, okay.
Kind of look like a nightcap in my own little warped mind.
Or a turban.
But I can't figure out where they were going with that original.
Well, but I think it was just a style then. I think that the hat actually symbolized something, if I remember correctly.
Well, the hat is a Phrygian cap, and it symbolizes freedom of thought.
There you go. I just wanted to say that, this, while Classic Heads do have a short run, they can be a really challenging set to try to put together. It can be done on a budget because lower grade examples aren't a ton of money. Now, there are some dates that are rare, but, putting this set together seems like it could be a rewarding experience.